So, hello, everybody. It is me, Demetria Kay, and I am sitting here with Gerry Monroe. This is what I guess I would call a special edition of the Demetria Kay Show, as I do not typically go live on Thursday. But I've had a few people reach out to me in regards to what is going on with Gerry Monroe, and some suggested that I speak to his daughter, and she actually said yes, she would love to do that, really to clear some things up. Now, I will be honest, I'm a little bit in the dark as to what all is going on. So I'm going to be learning on the fly with you all. But the little research that I did do, I will be honest with you, I'm confused as well because for those who really don't know what's going on, kind of like myself, it looks like there are a menagerie of homegoing services going forward. And so there's also a copious amount of GoFundMe's and different ways to donate towards the homegoing. And so, as I said, a lot of people seem to be confused, as it seems like a lot of people really want to donate and help. Brother Gerry Monroe, if you guys, if I didn't already say, has gone on April 30th. And a lot of people I do want to help, as Gerry has helped a lot of people, but they may be a little apprehensive because they just do not know where to send the funds. And so within the next 20 to 30 minutes, we won't be on here long. We are hoping to clear that up via Gerry. She does not want to be seen. Obviously, she is still grieving and, really going through a lot, but we will definitely hear her voice. And so without further ado, I also want to say, probably won't be in the comment section too much. I have left it up to Gerry. If she wants to address anything coming from the comment section, she can. I would just ask that everyone come on here, as the Demetria Kay Show audience is very civilized, but anybody else who is not used to this show, I would ask that you please be civilized. I don't like to block people, but I will if I need to. So please, I'm asking to be on your best behavior. So without further ado, Gerry, how are you doing today?
Honestly, I truly don't know how to answer that for you. Um, I've been feeling a mix of emotions actually since, I was notified. So, um, hopefully that answers that.
It does, and I want to say to you, just right off the bat, I have lost a parent, my mother, and it was very difficult to lose a parent. And so, if I hadn't already, my condolences to you. No one's expecting you to, uh, be chipper and whatever. I want you to be yourself. And so I know how you feel with the gamut of emotions that are going forward. So let's address what has transpired from the moment you found out that your father had passed on.
Sure. And before I go into that, I just want to preface the conversation in my words that this is something I truly did not want to do. The semantics that are happening on social media that I've heard about and seen, I would honestly say is very disheartening, considering that no matter what anyone says or does, it will never be able to bring my father back. Um, so I'm not trying to gain any attention from this. I just want to be able to bring clarity into people's hearts and be as transparent as possible, because honestly, I just want to be able to honor my father and be able to grant him his peace, and that is this solely what I'm focused on. So anything else, this conversation will be just my 100% truth and nothing else. um so I just wanted to do that before I went into everything, so that people know that this is not what some assumptions may be.
So let me ask you this: how did you find out your father passed? Like, walk us through that moment.
Sure. My mother got a call from his girlfriend, Erica, Erica Albert. And she came over to our home, and we both went outside together, and she told us that he had passed away early that morning, and that she wanted to tell us in person before it got to Facebook, which I truly thank her for. I do, because not a lot of people would think about doing that beforehand. So I appreciate that part of this whole thing. Um, and, during that ordeal, my mother asked her if I would be involved regarding the services and everything of that nature. And she said, definitely. I would never leave her out. And so at that point, I did not know what I know now. So I assumed that I would just be an integral part to planning the services, and not essentially playing a bigger role as to what I'm having to do now. So that's how this whole thing starts. And again, thank you, Erica, for doing that, because you didn't have to.
Okay. And so, what has been your role? As I said, I mean, I too lost a mother, and planning a funeral is, just besides the grieving, it's a lot, because it's a lot that, you don't even know is involved, right? Because we go to funerals, but then when you have to plan one, is like, yikes, I had no idea, right? So, what has
Right.
been your role so far?
Well, um, since I wasn't privy to that information, we actually both went back into the house, and we were kind of shocked that, it was kind of like we felt like it was a joke at first. Um, but we got another call. I'd say an hour later, from one of Erica's close friends, is how she introduced herself. And I don't want to say her name because she's very prominent, and I wouldn't want her to be brought into this at all. But she was actually the one that made it very clear to me that, due to legalities and the fact that he was not legally married, that I was his next of kin, and that everything essentially fell to me: getting his affairs in order, planning his services, seeing if he had any type of insurance policy, things of that nature, just everything that's involved when it comes to a death. I was legally supposed to do. So that is my role now. And I'm only doing this because of the legalities of everything.
And I want everybody who's watching to understand that Jalen, and I don't want to say she's only, as to deduce her down, but she is only 22 years old. So, she's a fairly young lady in the larger scheme of things. Something like of this magnitude is usually left to people who are a little bit older, as when you're younger, you don't expect to lose a parent, and you don't expect to be the next of kin. So, um it's a grave, and no, pardon the pun, undertaking to do that. So, then what's going on from that point?
Then at that point, the same day, because now that I know that information, obviously I needed time to process that, because again, I wasn't expecting to be the one to be pushed all of the roles for this. So I would say later on in the day, I decided to call Erica again, and let her know that, you know it, the door is open. My condolences. I gave my condolences profusely to her. I told her, if you need support, if you want to meet for lunch the next day, so that we can, see what our ideas are and be able to collaborate on this. I would love to be able to keep you and his sister, Jackie, in mind when it comes to planning his services, because at that point my mindset changed from being just part of it to now being the one that has to lead the lead the charge. And during that conversation, I kind of felt that she was maybe confused, but regardless, I still wanted to meet her the next day, and I told her to let me know what time she'd like to do lunch, dinner tomorrow. And she said, okay. And she said that she was doing a statement on Facebook regarding his passing. She didn't tell me the details of anything at all. She just said that she was doing a statement. And I said, okay, well, hopefully I will be able to see you tomorrow and we can go over everything. And that was that for that day.
Okay. So, what did you learn what those details were at a later date?
No. The next day, I waited for her call and I didn't hear from her. And actually, I found out through her that he actually was, speaking with a funeral consultant regarding his what he thought about going over pricing and everything for his services around 5 or 6 years ago from her words. And I was like, okay, well, I can reach out to her and I can, see how this is going to go, essentially. And I did. Um, she wanted to have a meeting with me and Erica to be able to come to agreements with everything and be able to bring the services together as a unit. And at that point, I was open to doing that again. I extended my support to her, so I wasn't closed off to it. um, and then later on that night, something in my I was still grieving very bad, and I decided to cancel that meeting. And later on that night, I received word that Erica decided to create a GoFundMe. And I was never contacted about a GoFundMe. I was never told there would be a GoFundMe created. Um, I wasn't told anything. So that's how I got the news about the GoFundMe. And at that point, I was confused and upset. And I tried to call Erica that night. And I also left her a voicemail. And in that voicemail, my emotions were very high. And I made it very clear to her that the GoFundMe needs to be taken down because I didn't approve it and we didn't agree on anything. And that if it wasn't taken down, then I would report it. And that's what I did.
So, what was the GoFundMe for? And I've looked, like I said, just kind of do a little bit of research. But what is your understanding that the GoFundMe is for, and for what is the amount of the GoFundMe?
From my from my understanding, the GoFundMe is for his funeral services. Um, is the way that they deduced everything, and that the goal of that GoFundMe was $35,000.
$35,000
Yes,
for funeral service.
yes.
Okay, I mean, let me ask you this: do you think that $35,000 is excessive? Because I mean, I've seen some conversation around it, and yes, people are like, "Why so much?" Now I do, and I will say this: I sold life insurance years ago, so I do realize, and like I said, I buried my mother in 2016, so I do realize, the expense that is incurred with burying someone. But $35,000 is quite a bit of money for a funeral, unless it's very lavish.
I I would say if you knew my father by his persona, which is the 5-star general, anyone would think that in that persona he would want a lavish funeral homegoing um service. But the way I knew him and the way other people knew him in private, he was the complete opposite when it came to those types of things. And he didn't want, from my understanding, that lavish type of service. um, from our talks, he actually truly wanted to be cremated because he never wanted to be looked down upon when it came to a traditional funeral and a burial. So I want to be able to honor that wish and give that to him because that's what he wanted.
And so that, and I see somebody, a couple people saying that is now $8,000 is what the GoFundMe is, which, admittedly, that's a drastic deduction, if you will, from the 35,000 to the 8,000. And I'll tell you now, $8,000 is not enough for a funeral either. So I don't know, what that's about. So tell us about your services and what that entails, if you have an amount yet. By the way, we do have information at the bottom of the screen where funds for Gerry's homegoing that is orchestrated by his daughter, Jalen, can be sent, and that's to the Troy B. Smith Funeral Home. There's also a phone number and a Zelle. It goes to Gerry's burial. You can send the funds straight to the funeral home if you do not want to, have it go into someone's GoFundMe or pocket. As I understand, there's a lot going on nowadays, and you just don't know. And I'm not saying it's true for the GoFundMe, so do not mistake me in that. A lot of times we just don't know where the money is going. And like I said, it seems like there's a lot of fundraising effort going out there. And a lot of people are just confused, like, where do I actually send my money that's actually going to give Gerry a final send-off? And so I know the other conversation is a kind of a tug of war between you and, as you say, Erica. Can you break that down a little? Because you did say that you are next of kin. If you can't have a problem explaining, I can, but can you explain that for people? What exactly does it mean to be next of kin?
Essentially, and especially since we live in Texas, Texas law states that when a person dies, the next of kin is determined by a numerical superiority system, essentially, like a chain of command, if anybody understands that. So the first person that is considered when it comes to being the next of kin is a spouse. And the spouse usually means a wife or husband that is legally married or has a common law certificate in the state of Texas. Because in the state of Texas, per the medical examiner's office and other commission offices that I've spoken to, you need a common law certificate for it to be legally recognized in the state of Texas. So if you don't have that, you are not legally their spouse, and you do not legally hold the right of next of kin. After the spouse, it's adult children. And after the adult children, if there aren't any children, I believe it's cousins, right?
I believe it's siblings.
Siblings, okay. Siblings, and then after siblings, it should be cousins or parents.
Yeah, so it's parents. So if I and don't mistake quote me, but yes, it's spouse, children, adult children, because minors, they can't make any decisions. So adult children, and then from what I understand, it might be parents, then siblings, and then
Yes.
I believe cousins. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So legally, he doesn't have a spouse from what I know of currently or when he died. So the next step would be his adult children, which would be any children that are biological or adopted, and that has to be legally proven. And he does have three biological children, including me, my older sister, Brittany, and my youngest, my younger brother, who is one now, Javarian. That was I haven't been able to meet him yet, but I consider him a gift because that was the last thing. He was so excited about Javarian when he told me about him before he was born, and he always wanted a boy,
So
and he was
needless to
hoping
say,
for a boy when we talked about it. Yeah.
your little brother was not a surprise to you.
No, he told me about him before he was born, and even told me that he was essentially due on my birthday. um, so
So
yeah,
then,
he.
let me ask you this. How is it? Where is the confusion? You broke it down beautifully, right? As far as the
Mhm.
chain of command. So let me ask you, where is the confusion or the sense of, I guess, the best way I can describe it in my mind is a tug of war. Why is there a tug of war if per what you say, it's a chain of command, and for you, as far as your knowledge is concerned, he did not have what we call a legal spouse. So he wasn't married to anyone. Because I know also, from what I understand, in Texas, they do have common law situations, but as you said, it needs to be proven, right? We can't just run around saying, well, we were married, that was my husband, that was my wife. There has to be something that ties you together. So my question, Jalen, is where is the confusion as to who actually has rights over the last wishes of your father?
And I want this part especially, I just want to say I have done my due diligence when it comes to researching everything, because I wanted to be absolutely sure before I overstepped anyone that I was doing everything in the legal way and doing everything the right way, because I don't want to overstep anyone's um, legal control and do anything that I'm not supposed to do. So I've spoken with, again, the medical examiner's office. I've spoken with the funeral commission's office. I've spoken to everyone I needed to make sure that I'm doing everything the right way. I'm 22. I'm not privy to this. I've never lost a parent. So I had to do my research. Um, so going back to the first day, when I asked Erica where his body was, she told me that she did not know. And I believed her at that point, and I respected that. And I was waiting on her to be able to tell me the information of where he was. But when I spoke to the police department, they told me that anytime that they respond to a call made to 911, a police report is given to the person that called, as well as it's put into the system of that county. So there's legal documentation of the call that was made. And they told her at that point where the body would be going and gave her documentation on where to call, the address, and everything. And I found this out actually yesterday. But at that point, I did not know. And she told me she didn't know where he was. So I accepted that and I moved on with my day. The next day, however, I was still waiting on her to tell me where he was. I spoke to a few of her friends as well, and they told me that she said to them that she didn't know where he was, and so I decided to start searching for him. And I finally deduced it down to a medical examiner's office close to his residence, and I called them and I spoke to them, and they told me that on the documentation that she gave, she listed herself and his sister Jackie as his next of kin. And
Okay,
that
so wait, let's stop right there. Let's do this. I like to do some mental math on my show, if you don't mind. Okay. Just in case anybody's confused, I want to make sure I heard this right. You're saying originally she told you she had no idea where your father was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you did some research and kind of, where on earth is my father, and you found him, they said she indeed knew where he was, and this via documentation.
Yes.
What type of documentation, if you don't mind me asking, if you could tell, what uh, did they have to say? Well, hey, yeah, she knew.
The police report. Every medical examiner's office is given the police report that they can have in their system, because if it's just a random body that they're given, they usually input it into the system as Jane Doe or John Doe, depending on the gender. But since they had information on him and they had information on who, quote unquote, the next of kin was, they inputted it into the system. And that's essentially how they explained it to me. Now, I wasn't able to get access to the police report from them due to legal reasons, but however, I did request the full police report, and I should be expecting that in 10 days or so.
So let me ask you this. Do you think she intentionally, let's just call it what it is. Do you think she lied to you, or was it an oversight? Like maybe because let's put it out there. She is also grieving the loss
Right.
of her boyfriend or whoever Gerry was to her. So let's just throw that in there. She's also grieving. So is it fair to say that, do you feel like she lied to you, or did she just kind of in all the confusion really did think she knew? or maybe she forgot it was an oversight?
Initially, I thought it was an oversight until I spoke with the medical examiner's office. And at that point, I felt like she was essentially trying to lie to me to shut me out at that point.
Why do you think she was trying to shut you out? What made you think that? Like what happened?
Well, this is kind of skipping a little bit, but um, there's been a lot of talk on Erica's family's side, essentially questioning my relationship with my father, and the fact that from their knowledge, that I didn't have one with my father, and he didn't talk to me, didn't mess with me, and how much of a, and this is one of her daughter's words, how much of a sorry daughter I've been to him, and how I don't deserve to be in control of anything because I didn't, in their words, have a relationship with him.
Well, I like to be prepared, and so you actually sent me some proof that your father did have a relationship and did acknowledge you. And I would say too, if you guys didn't know or didn't remember, I sat on the war zone with Gerry along with my partner in crime, Donovan Sadiq, and he reverenced you quite a bit. So that's kind of shocking to me because I don't think anybody knew it was a secret. Now I will say this: originally he never said your name, but he would say, "Oh, my daughter, she's in the comments, and I think we could put two and two together. Yeah, y'all look just alike. You know what I
And
mean?" So I
that was
figured it out pretty
essentially,
quick.
I started watching his lives when I was 16. Like, essentially when he started doing the political lives that he did. And that was because, out of respect for me at the time we were still talking, I didn't want to be known, because I
Right.
didn't want people asking me questions. And at that time, I was still going to Yates, his alma mater. I only was there for the ninth grade. But at that time, I didn't want people to know. I didn't want to go through that at school. And I just wanted to be in the dark. So that's why he never said my name until a few weeks ago, I finally decided to put my full name on my Facebook due to, for work reasons and background checks and things of that nature that my job does. I just did it. And I didn't, I was watching his live 3 weeks ago, and he actually, out of the blue, decided to bring me up in his live. And I didn't expect him to do that.
And I have that video. I'm gonna play it for anybody who's in doubt as to whether he acknowledged his daughter or not. It seems that you say this video came for like 3 weeks ago or so.
Yeah, three
So
weeks
it's
ago.
fairly recent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring this video rather up. And Lucy, I see you on here. I'm gonna just I'm assuming you're connected to the conversation some way, shape, or form. I will block you. I have no problem with blocking you if you cannot remain civilized. That's all I'm asking. If you cannot remain civilized, then you will be blocked. I do not do silliness and foolishness. I am calling you to rise to the behavior of a lady because that's how we behave on this show. Now, if this conversation is a little bit too emotional for you, where you are lacking emotional intelligence, then you can watch to see yourself off of this page. And I say that with all the respect that I can find. So I'm just that you will not get another warning. So if you can please
Well,
behave
can I
yourself.
can I say something to Lucy?
Sure.
Okay. Lucy, I truly don't know you. I wish I could have met you, and your mother, before any of this, and be able to get to know you. But honestly, I don't know you. And I did see your live, I did watch it in its entirety. And I honestly don't know why you have so much disdain for me and my existence. But I've done nothing to you for you to feel so harshly about me. I gave nothing but respect to your mother when she came here. It's just when things started to come to light, I got angry. And a human can only take so much. And again, if you feel like that I disrespected your mother, I apologize. But you know that your mother is grieving. I'm especially grieving. And again, I wanted to work with your mother. I didn't want this to go this way. I so I understand you may feel this way now, but hopefully down the line, and God forbid you never have to go through this, that you'll be able to understand why I'm doing this and why I have to. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to say that to Lucy. But go ahead, Demetria.
And young lady, I want to say this. Your mother has raised you right. You are a very beautifully soft spoken, well mannered, articulate young woman that even during your time of grief, you have addressed people who have not been kind to you in the most respectful manner. So, shout out to your mother. We need more young ladies like you. So, I'm going to go ahead and play the video.
You know what's a beautiful thing? And it took her forever to post her name. You notice her name says Jalen Michon Monroe. My name is Gerry W. Monroe. I see the comments being made about my child, but I'm going to tell you something. Some of us don't play about our kids, bro.
So, again, that was the late Gerry Monroe addressing someone apparently who had issue or question of his daughter. So that was him in his own words acknowledging that Jalen is in fact his daughter. And so if anybody had any doubt as to what was going on, then I hope that puts all of that to rest. And so, Jalen, where are you now in the process of planning and all of that? Has it like what's going on now? Because as I see,
Um,
it obviously is this, there's some friction as to what is going on. So what's going on now?
Essentially, everything's came to a halt. Um, Erica has profusely been reaching out to the medical examiner's office, which is her right since she is grieving, to essentially be able to gain the rights to his body, even though she is legally not the next of kin. I've been dealing with this since about Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, once I finally knew I was the next of kin and I found the medical examiner's office and everything. And everything's at a halt. I can't transport him to the funeral home. I can't plan anything. I can't set anything in motion because the chief medical examiner decided to put things to a halt so that Erica has time to prove that she is the legal next of kin. So that is why neither side has been able to continue, because we're trying to they're essentially trying to figure everything out to see who retains the legal right to transport his body.
Do you believe that she is your dad's next of kin? And I don't even want to say belief. Is there anything that you have that says, yeah, I could see her being my father's next of kin via a spouse? Do you have that knowledge at all?
Repeat that question. I'm so
Do
sorry.
you have any knowledge as to whether she really might be the next of kin, the spouse?
No. Um I've gotten a hold of his legal documents that he's done, and all of them has said that he's been single, but he was married. I think he got divorced around 3 years ago. Two, three, I don't remember, but it was fairly recent in years' time, to Xandra, which I wish I could speak with her, but I loved her. She was very much a beautiful soul. Um, Xandra was his wife, and I was introduced to her when I went to Yates initially. So that's the person I knew as his spouse, his legal spouse, and his last wife.
I see someone on here named Bree. How you doing, Bree? You say she, and I'm assuming you're talking about your mother, since you guys look like you have the same last name. So she was with him for 12 years. Now, y'all know on this show we like to do a little math, and I'm just gonna ask some questions. So you're saying his last wife that he was divorced from was about 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
How
Yes.
long was he married to her?
Ooh, ooh, 6 years, I believe.
And when
6 years.
do you have the dates on those?
No, I do not have that handy. But again, if anyone knows him, he knows he was married to Xandra and how integral Xandra was when they were married. So he was.
Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Why don't you just let Erica handle the funeral arrangements? Because I saw somebody make that comment on there. Well, then let Erica do it. So why don't you just let her do it?
Here's the thing. I, again, I understand Erica wants to be the spearhead for it. And again, I was all for it initially. And I gave her that olive branch of just being able to give my input. But after the way she's treated me and after the way her children have continuously treated me for no reason, again, I have nothing to hold against you guys. I have no disdain for you. I didn't even know you at all. So at this point, I don't feel comfortable with her having full control of my father's services because of all the negative energy. I want him to be able to be at peace and rest, his soul be able to rest in peace, because that's what he deserves. The way he left this world was so not peaceful. And truly he didn't deserve it. And the fact that he even died alone is, I wouldn't want anyone to die alone. That is the worst way to leave this earth and not be able to see any type of loved one and be able to talk to them and have final talks with them. And I didn't get to have a final talk with my dad. The last one I had was 3 weeks ago after his live. And we spoke about his son, and he sent me updated pictures of my brother. That's the last time I got to talk to him. I didn't get to say I love you. I didn't get to have anything. And for me to be able to have closure, and for me to be able to have one more moment with him, if I have to do this and take all the pain and everything that comes with it, I will do that for him, because I know he would do it for me, regardless of what anyone says or what anyone tries to dispute. He has always told me that no matter what, he loved me. And no matter what, I loved him, regardless of what we went through. And we went through a lot. And he apologized. We had a long talk around 3 years ago. And we were able to talk. And I wasn't able to say everything I needed to him at that time because I was scared. Because of this persona I knew I didn't. I, I, I was so scared of this persona that he had that I didn't know that in that moment he was just trying to be my father. And now I will regret that for the rest of my life. Not being able to say the words that I forgive him. So I know you guys don't understand why I'm doing this, and you probably never will. But honestly, at this point, I've done all I can. This is it. This will be my first and final time addressing this, because I don't have to, and I didn't want to. But what I'm not going to do is allow people to tarnish any type of relationship that we had and bring it to question, and and try to tarnish me. I mean, I'm only 22, and I think I the first 10 years of my life I grew up fatherless. So I'm sorry if me wanting to be a part of his services affects you guys so much. There's a lot that I could bring up that has happened even more in private, but I'm not. because that would just make everything worse. But just know, I did not want it to go this way. I didn't. And Erica, I am so sorry because I know you are grieving a lot right now. But again, the way that I've been treated and the lives that have been done, if he was alive today, you know he wouldn't accept it. So out for because I know the things that we talked about and his wishes, I am going to honor that, whether you guys are with it or not. I loved him, and that is that.
And I want to, I see, let's see here, a few people, I guess it's Erica's family saying, why didn't we bring you on the show? Come on, sis. Y'all know why we didn't bring you on the show. For one thing, I will not have Jalen having to have a back and forth. And I can see how you behave in the comment section. If I was to send you a link, how you would behave on here. And I'm sorry, we don't act like that over here. We don't do all that back and forth. We are very civilized Black women, and we do things with the spirit of excellence. So that's why you didn't get a link, because something tells me you don't have the couth to know how to behave yourself accordingly, right? And I'm going to say this because, you know, anybody who's followed me for a very long time, how you doing, Black America? Anybody who's followed me for a while, you know that I don't bite my tongue. There's a lot of levels to this from what I'm learning. And I'm just keeping real. The law.
Well, hold on. Linda, here's the thing. And I'm not going to show my birth certificate, but just know I have a baby book filled with pictures of him being there when I was born. He signed my birth certificate. I mean, if you look at us, we're practically freaking twins. There's no need for me to go down that route. Legally, I have to the medical examiner and things of that nature, but to the public, it doesn't need to be that. Everything, as Lucy said, is in black and white, and it's written down for me. So I don't need to prove anything when it comes to him truly acknowledging me as his daughter and being there for me and me being there for him the best way we knew how for each other. That I don't need to do that.
Yeah, you know, as I was going to say, and you're right, you're absolutely right. The law trumps emotions all day long. It's not about how you feel, it's about the law. If it's in writing, there's no fighting. So, whoever's in legal standing, and I don't really want to give my opinion much, but I'm going to a little bit. Whoever is in legal standing, that's the one that has the right. It's not how I feel and oh, I was this, or oh my. It ain't about that. The law don't care about how you feel. The law wants to know in any situation. Show me how you have legal standing, whether it's to buy a car, a house, whatever it is. Show me your paper. I don't want to hear about how you feel, right? So, I mean, I just think this, honestly, all of this, it's a mess. I ain't going to lie. As I said, I had to bury my mama. Thank God I didn't have to do with a whole bunch of other stuff. But this should be a lesson to have your affairs in order. If you want someone to be over your estate or whatever when you pass, make that known before you die. What you gonna say, Jalen?
If I'm just gonna I'm just gonna stop looking at the comments because I don't know why they're going this slow. It's not needed. So I'm just gonna stop looking at the comments. So go ahead, Demetria. I'm just not gonna look.
I'll look every once in a while. I see someone says 3 years ago he was with my mom. Who's your mom, if you don't mind me asking?
I can address that because it keeps being brought up. 3 years ago, that was 2020. I was on my deathbed in 2020. In 2020, I got an infection that it came into my bloodstream, and I didn't know it. I was refusing to go to the doctor because I thought I would just recover, and I didn't know I had an infection in my bloodstream at that point. But my mom literally dragged me into the car, and I got admitted, I think, for a week or so. And after I got discharged, my father actually came to the house to visit me to make sure I was okay. So all of this happened in the same year. I know I may have not have been there on his deathbed, because at that point I was going through my own things, and the last thing I wanted to see was my father on his deathbed. So I'm sorry if I wasn't there.
Well, you don't have to issue anybody apology, but Lucy, I'm going to give you a lesson if you don't mind. And I want everybody to read what she said. She said she didn't settle. She didn't need to be another wife. He's had enough wives for his lifetime. So this young lady, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 52. I'm imagining you're a lot younger than me. This is what happens when you talk too much. Do you know what you just did? Do you know that on a public platform with 123 people watching, you just admitted that your mom was not a wife to Gerry? Do you know that you did that? That's why on this platform, I try to teach people emotional intelligence, in that do not let your emotions, cause a kink in the chain per se. But you, being her daughter, just admitted that she was not married to your dad. So somebody lying. So Erica, I'm sure you're watching. It would behoove you as a mother to tell your daughters to stop telling all your damn business, because she just, and this is permanent. I'm not going to get rid of this platform. This is permanent. Anybody who wants to see it, whether it's legal authorities or anybody else, Jalen, you can take this to wherever you need. And her own daughter, I'm assuming that is her blood biological daughter, who probably know her mama better than anybody. Jalen, do you know your mom fairly well?
My mother, Lisa Ardoin, yes.
Would you know if she was married or not?
Definitely.
So the point that I'm making is, you just kind of told on your mama, and I sure hate it. That's why you got to control yourself. I'm gonna leave that up here so everybody can see also what happens when you talk too much. Sometimes it would behoove you to be quiet and listen. So we're going to continue on. Everybody, you can take notes. Everybody can take notes and see this up here. She's admitting that her mom was not a wife. Did whoever that was in the comment section say who his mother was? If y'all see it, let me know.
If you look up common law in Texas, yes, common law is legally recognized. However, just like a marriage, actual marriage, you have to get a certificate. A common law certificate is what it's called. You can look it up. Anyone can look it up. It's stated as part of Texas law. So even if she lived with him and can prove that they were in a romantic relationship, it technically started when he was married to someone else. So it's not valid. It's not. She doesn't have a certificate. And if she does, please present it to the medical examiner, because you're prolonging. He's just sitting there. He's sitting in a freezer. And he's been sitting there since they did an autopsy. Like, why? I don't get it. If you have it, please present it to them so this can be done. I don't want to prolong this as much as she does. So if she has it, go to the medical examiner and present it like he requested. If not, I don't know what to tell you.
So, Bank Deuce, the king. I'm imagining how you doing, young man. So you're saying Corliss is your mother. So you're saying he was with your mother, I forget, 3 years or for 3 years? Jalen, do you have knowledge of that?
No, I don't know.
And I will say, just in transparency, that I do have knowledge of it. I do know that Corliss was with Gerry. I know when I got on the war zone, it was 2020. So at the time, they were together. So I do have knowledge of that. So I guess what we're trying to do here is just trying to piece this 12-year timeline together. So it sounds in that 12 years timeline that Gerry was divorced, and he was engaged to Corliss, from what I understand. So he was divorced and engaged. So I'm just asking, since y'all put it out there, I ain't telling your mama business. Y'all are. So I say, you know, sometimes we be talking too much. Your mom was with him for 12 years, but then he was divorced and engaged to 2 different women. Some ain't jiving. I'll be honest with you. Math was not my strong suit. I passed algebra in college by the grace of God. I had a professor that say, I know some of y'all ain't been in algebra in years. All y'all got to do is show up and act like you care, and I'm going to pass you. So that's how I passed. But I'm just saying in the 12-year time, okay, so maybe he was with your mom, but it wasn't consecutively. There was some kinks in there, with some holes, some gaps, some breaks, or something, right? So I don't know. I'm just going off of what y'all said, and there's other people who are kind of filling in the blanks, if you will. I don't know. So
yeah. But
continue.
The main thing of the reason I wanted to do this was be able to tell you guys how, if you want to, you don't have to. If you would like to donate to Erica, you can. I'm not telling you not to. However, his services, I'm unfortunately conducting them. And I don't know, Demetria, do you have the information for it? Thank you. If you would like to donate to his services, because again, he didn't have any type of policy. Unfortunately, this should be a lesson to everyone. Please get life insurance. Please save for your children, at least for people that you'll leave behind, because this is a situation that you will be putting them in. Anyway, you can either donate to the funeral home, which is Troy B. Smith Funeral Home. You can call the number that's listed on this flyer and just let them know that you're contributing to Gerry Monroe's funeral service. And please put your first and last name so I can thank you in the program that's going to be created. If you want to, you don't have to. You can also contribute to the Zelle account that I made exclusively for his funeral. It's GaryMBurial@gmail.com.
And all of that is toward the bottom of the screen there on the crawler. So and you know, the Demetria Kay show, we really like to educate people. And I'm gonna look at you guys' comments as we get out of here as well. So I'm just gonna say this, and I've said it a million times, and in fact, we've said it a lot on the war zone in regards to making sure that you are insured and that your final wishes are met. And that there is not a lot of levels as we see going on here. And I'm going to say this to the ladies, okay? I love you men, but this is to the ladies. Make sure, whether you married to that man or not, it's an old song that back in the day, she's got papers on me. Y'all remember that? I'm dating myself now, okay? Get some papers on that man. I don't care whether it's some life insurance, whether he puts you in the wheel, you want something, right? Because as I've always been taught, if it's in writing, there is no fighting. Facts are going to trump feelings all the time. And we've heard this story. It is as old as time. Oh, and I'm not speaking to anybody specifically. I just want to say that. We've heard this story. Oh, you know, I was his lady for 20 years, and you know, we lived together, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And then when he passes away, they're like, yes, ma'am, you were his lady. But then you hear a situation where the next of kin say, excuse me, you don't even need to be talking to her because she doesn't have any jurisdiction over anything. And we could take from the LGBTQ community. Y'all remember years ago when they would say, oh, we've been together for 50 years. They say, well, you know, they're in a hospital room. You cannot come back there because you are not next of kin. You have, you know, no rights here. So they allowed them to get married. And it was really for that reason, so that they can have some say so, because even in a lot of their cases, they would have next of kin come in and say, well, we don't care if you've been together for 50 years. It's our house. It's, you know, whatever the case is. And so this should be a lesson to the wise. And this is why I'm going to dig just a little bit deep. Ladies, when we get to our 30s, 40s, and 50s, We should not be with no man that is not, no shade to Gerry, no shade to Gerry at all. This is just in general. We shouldn't be with no man if he ain't trying to put us on nothing. Make sure we're taken care of while he is gone. I'm just saying. I mean, we got to be, grow up a little bit. Forget being with the man. What can the man do for you? God forbid he close his eyes. Are you going to be taken care of? Or are you going to find yourself in a lurch? See, this is the things that I teach my daughter. I have a 30-year-old daughter, and I teach her these lessons. And so we should be teaching our daughters these lessons. And men, I can't tell y'all how to teach men, but y'all need to teach your sons to be upright as well. If you with that woman, take care of her. Make sure, or let her know, hey, baby, if I go up out of here, you're going to be asked out.
Demetria.
Sure.
Yeah. Tamika, I've been to funerals. I've been to, I believe, 3 in my lifetime. Honestly, any funeral should be a celebration of life, but it should also financially be feasible for the family, especially if the person didn't have life insurance. I understand that $35,000 was the original goal, but truly, he wanted to be cremated, and a burial would not be respecting his wishes. And the estimates that I've gotten, it's under 35 from what I've gotten. So I don't know where they got that number from. I don't know what they plan on doing, but the way he wanted to be celebrated, he just wanted a celebration of his life. He didn't want anything huge, anything extravagant. He just wanted people to be able to remember his work, remember him in a positive light, and speak to that and celebrate him and not mourn. But anyways, I thank you, Demetria. I do have to unfortunately leave out of here. But I thank you for giving me your platform tonight. And everyone, I do want to leave you with one message. I'm pretty sure that everyone in here has a family member that they don't talk to much, and if at all. And I would implore you, please, if it is fixable, fix it. Because you never know when one of you is going to be called home.
Absolutely.
It's not worth it.
You said a word there, young lady. So please feel free to come back anytime. As I said to you on Sunday when you came on and spoke about your dear father, my platform is your platform. I would love to have you on anytime, take you under my wing and all of that. And I also like to say, acknowledgement to your mother. She has raised a beautiful, as I said, articulate young lady. I love young women that are smart and know how to express themselves properly. And as I said to you before we came on here, there's a lot of grown men who would not have the professionalism that you are exuding right now. So stay strong, young sister. All is going to work out. And I know that you will do your father proud, as I would imagine he would want you to. So you guys, we love and appreciate y'all for coming on this special time. You guys, please have a great, safe rest of your evening. Peace.